Yeah, so I've called this presentation Embodying Affect, so recognising augmented reality as a new medium of experience. Yeah, I wasn't sure like the format of these presentations, so I did a little like intro to myself. So I did my undergrad degree in geography. So through my geography degree, I became interested in theories of affect. So affects are thought to operate independently from feeling and emotion, sort of beyond and within any duality like mind, body, real, virtual, and that is experienced through shared emotional responses to aesthetic things, and how this shared affectual dimension can shape and alter how people experience and relate to themselves, each other, and then the subject matter or material thing that they're being presented with. So in my undergrad, I explored this through film. I was very focused on how I might use subtle filming techniques and the process of building a relationship with someone behind camera to allow a shared experience of affects to then sort of flow through the film that I produced. I found this really difficult because I was counterintuitively using the representational technology of a camera to attend to affect, to the non-representational. I also found that the act of watching a film can sometimes be quite disembodied. You're not learning through movement of your own body if you're just sort of sat in a chair. So I took a year out, and in that year stumbled across the master's course at UE in virtual and extended realities. And so I started researching immersive tech and felt like this was a much more tangible way of attending to the sort of like Deleuze and Guattarian virtual dimensions. So through my masters, I became really interested in augmented reality because of its unique ability to have users exist in like a real and virtual environment, and blurring the lines between how you act and interact within the two. So going back to my theoretical interest coming from my undergrad degree, I was interested in the architect Bernard Schumy's idea. The materialization of the real coincides with its simultaneous visual and social expression in space. So in terms of affect, the materialization of something that we understand to be real therefore comes from a shared affectual experience that is visualized and expressed through social dynamics in physical space. And so Bernard Schumy calls these visual and social happenings events that happen in the in-between, that can be architecturally orchestrated through design, through architecture. And it's when you embody these in-between spaces that you have this shared experience of an affect that can conjure new understandings of what is real. So through location-based augmented reality, I wanted to play with architecturally configuring a physical space virtually, sort of a virtual overlay, as to create these in-between augmented environments that users could create meaning about the subject matter through. So yeah, technically, myself and my project partner were also tasked with trying to curate an AR experience that didn't use object or plane tracking in order to be more of a wraparound experience that encompassed the user's entire field of vision. So to do this for free and without having to invest in really expensive mixed reality headsets, which I would also have no clue how to develop for, we decided to explore Vuforio's area target generator, which facilitates the conversion of a 3D LiDAR scan into a data set that you can bring into a game engine like Unity, and then users can navigate within this space, augmented onto the space that they're exploring through their mobile phone. So yeah, it's all experienced through mobile AR that picks up the 3D scans of space and then loads an entire virtual environment on top. So in keeping with the architect Schumi, we sought to create a non-hierarchical multi-room experience transposed onto one single space, where each new scene can be triggered through movement through the body. So to exemplify, so yeah, this is like the area target generator, so that's like the scan that does the LiDAR scan. So yeah, initially we sort of did scans of the space, so this is the Arnold Phoenix, like a contemporary art gallery in Bristol. And we sort of mapped them onto one plane, and we were thinking that people could sort of like walk into a different room and that would load a new virtual scene that they would then enter. However, we wanted to like stick with the idea, of creating a non-hierarchical experience where loads of scenes were transposed onto one single space. So instead, so for example, this is like the first scene that you enter, and there's different like portals in the corners of the room. So you could then like walk in. So this is all like holding your mobile. Walk into the space, turn back around to the room, and a new virtual scene is loaded on top. So the idea is that you've got like people in one physical space doing one experience, but they're in different scenes, and like this causes some interesting interactions. So yeah, to exemplify our piece titled Fashion Through the Looking Glass, attached multiple avatar heads as well as digital garments and accessories to the virtual camera, to the mobile, so that users could customize their reflection in a virtual mirror. And thinking back to Tumi's In Between as a particular spatial configuration that's unprogrammed, and it's been designed non-hierarchically, the piece then purposefully allowed users to exist in different scenes whilst occupying the same physical space. And yeah, so positioning AR as a hybrid form of storytelling, it therefore felt appropriate to explore a topic that was in need of some sort of like hybrid narrative featuring. So we chose sustainable fashion as our subject matter that struggles to reconcile artisanal and digital solutions to the future of sustainable fashion. And so the two approaches that have been defined by the industry is your artisanal, slow is beautiful approach and your digital techno chic, which each address how fashion production should change artisanally and technologically. So our piece didn't seek to resolve the social and political and environmental differences between the two approaches, but rather has this like commingling, like coexistence of like a hybrid future where there are multiple forms in which both scenarios are able to coexist and learn from one another. And so this is experienced by people occupying the same physical space whilst traversing different virtual scenes that address the two approaches to the future sustainable fashion. So the idea is that the piece was able to generate hopeful affects that work on the visceral register of judgment rather than the level of conscious sense making, in this way in keeping with the non-representational. So like what we found speaking to people is that by sort of combining these different scenes that would address like digital alternatives for the fast fashion industry or artisanal approaches and sort of like going between the two, and you're maybe like looking at someone with their mediating device and trying to embody the actions that they're performing in order to like enter into their scene, your like conversations can sort of emerge that sort of blend the digital and the artisanal, and yeah, in that way it's sort of like an effectual atmosphere.
Great, so we can talk over this.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your interesting